This is another long video, and if I remember correctly, where we're headed now is, God knows, let's see where we wind up. Okay, we're at this stage, I think we're in Nova Scotia. This is a long trip that Pauline and myself took some time ago. I guess it was just before we moved to Florida, and it would be in 1979. And we went up through Maine, and we went up through Canada, New Brunswick, and Prince Charles Island. Is that it? I'm not too sure. Where the Gulf Stream comes in. This is, I think, in Prince Charles Island, and this is what it looks like. I remember now. It's a nice little place, and it was very warm because it's right on the Gulf Stream as it kind of dips in, even though it's far north. So the water is much warmer than when you go south, say to New Hampshire, and those beaches, which I remember from my childhood, were absolutely freezing. This is just a little idea of the town. We stayed at I think a farmhouse hotel or something, where the farmer was red-haired and had a toupee. I thought that was nice. And this is just kind of going through the town. It looks like we're traveling somewhere else now, and these may be out of sequence during that whole trip, but these are, of course, your flats. And I don't know what those white things are. They're either ducks or they're garbage, but I think they're probably ducks. This is a power plant, and I think this is where we're going to catch a ferry, if I remember, to go somewhere. It's a pretty big ferry. I think it was the ferry from Nova Scotia down to Canada. God, I hope I have all this correct. My sense of geography is leaving me, but it was a big ferry. And so we took some shots. There's Pauline, and I remember the thing about this trip, the one thing that sticks in my mind is you can buy 150 proof rum in Canada, or at least that was my first exposure to it. And so I would mix it with Coke. I got absolutely fried on 2 cans of Coke because the alcohol was so high. Now, for some reason, we're back in. This looks like New York, and there's the Empire State, so it has to be New York. This is from our apartment in New Jersey, in Fort Lee. I think it is. And I don't know how it got kind of mixed up in here, but there it was. And anyway, we're back in Nova Scotia, going on this schooner. This was the Bluenose, I think, one of the fishing schooners, or a replica. I'm not too sure. I think it was the original. And it takes people out, and I wanted to go on it because it's a kind of rare chance to you get on a real big boat that's still functional. And they just pile of people on there in Nova Scotia, which has a nice downtown harbor. It's kind of pretty. I don't know who those people are. I have no idea. And there's the boat. I guess I was filming it for a while before we got on it, and I hope I can show you that we did actually get on it. Well, at least there's some other people getting on it right there. And again, some fabulous pictures of the rigging. And anybody who's sailed, when they kind of look at these things, there's a nice shot of Pauline there. And I guess we are getting on because she's on, and if she's on, then I'm going to get on too. Is that the enormous manpower it took to make them go? You know, they take you out, they usually don't raise the sails, or if they do, they just raise only one. But just knowing what it takes to bring up the sails on my own boat, which is a 36-foot cat, the jib and the spinnaker and the mainsail, these things are at least twice as big, and the sails are twice as tough. You know, they're very strong. I suspect now they make them of the same your Dacron they make the racing sails of, but it's a real thick Dacron. So when you hoist them up, it's a job. And tacking and jibing, everything has to go at once. And these have two big mainmasts besides the various jibs, you know, and all has to go at once in sequence. And you can see why guys lost their hands. So here's some guys are going to bring up the main. It looks they're actually going to do it. And these are gaff rig, which means that it goes up and it has a flat top to it, which is something that the state-of-the-art racing boats are now doing. They're just cutting off the top of the triangle of their sails because it doesn't give you any lift really. It's just kind of it's just area that in fact you don't need, you know. And here it's coming up. So I think we brought up all the sails. It was pretty interesting. I think they asked some of the people who were sailing along to help them, which was nice of them to do. And here I guess we're off the boat and we're looking at a fire engine, which beats me why I would even film it, but these are some of the flowers. The town was a nice town, and I presume we're still in Prince Edward Island, if I remember correctly. I was kind of taken by the number of wooden boats and kind of traditional craft they had here. You don't see that in New York or Los Angeles or San Francisco. Everything's fiberglass. Here we're camping up in Maine. This is about the time when the Skylab was supposed to come down, so yeah, the Pauline was convinced that it was going to drop on us, which it didn't. It landed somewhere in the ocean. And this is the Bay of Fundy, if I remember correctly, where the tide goes upwards or backwards, and it's a tremendous flush from the bay up to the river. And this is a picture of the kind of thing that in fact you never want to get caught in. But these are the straits where the ocean comes flooding into the river at an enormous speed. And I think we caught some of the flats too at some stage where you can, there's a nice little whirlpool for you, huh? The flats where this water all goes out again too, you know, in 6 to 8 hours depending on the tide tables, and there's just enormous flats. And then you can actually see the tide starting to come in. So anyway, and you can see some of the boats now, the tide's out, they're up high and dry, and then when it comes in again, they go up. I think it's a 12 or 14, maybe a 20-foot drop. It's one of those freak places where you have to know what you're doing. If you're going to sail a boat like those fishermen did up and down here, you want to make sure you have your tide tables correct, or you're going to wind up in this mess here, which I guess I couldn't get enough of. I guess these are more of the rapids, and now we're finally into peacock country. God knows where this was. This wasn't, these are just peacocks. I guess we have peacocks now at Pelican Cove. There's a ministry that is next to us who keep peacocks. It's a vast woodland, and they jumped over from the ministry to us because they can eat hot dogs and stuff, which the people give them, and popcorn. So this, I think, is Monaco. Yeah, here the boats. That was a fast trip, right? I don't think these are exactly in sequence, but we did go to the Mediterranean, and we sailed with Steve Colgate. Some of the sailing vessels that are docked at the French ports, whether it's Cannes or whether it's Monaco, are just fabulous. You know, they must have crews of 10 or 15 on them, and they don't do anything except look good. That's a 3-masted schooner. And they're owned by these Onassis-like cats, you know. So it's always a thrill to see them, and everything is kept in tip-top shape because people come on board for cocktails, you know. You have to show off your boat if you have one. This is some of the street scenes in Monaco, which was very nice. We took a bus, I think, up to. They have these excuse me. They have these caves on the top of Monaco that we'll see in a second. with a lot of cactus and stuff. You know, there's like a botanical garden outside, and you can look down at the town and the harbor itself. The whole thing is interesting. Anyway, I think that we're back at this stage, because the way the boats are docked, it seems to be that we're still, if the boats are docked stern first, then we're still in Monaco. And oh yeah, this is the boat we sailed in Monaco, and we had a crew of 6, and I think we had a 38-foot Pearson, docking the boat, stern first, is always something I could never even fathom doing. I didn't even bother to try to do it. But I guess if you get used to it, you do. I have a catamaran with a motor on one hull, so you try to get that backed in stern in heavy wind. It's hard enough to do it in when you come up in this, Pauline. Again, this is the beach, I think, in Monaco, or Cannes, whatever it is. We sail through 5 or 6 of the seaport cities. Their beaches aren't that nice. The water's nice. It's the Mediterranean. Here's some of the boats that were sailing with us. This was about in 79 or 78. At that time, I was getting ready to sell my half a CMC, and I just took this trip, which I think was in the fall, and I think it took another year for me to actually sell it. That's what the seacoast looks like. So this would have been in 78, and it's pretty well built up, and it's besides the old apartment buildings, condos, and there's the Jacques Cousteau, the Maritime Laboratory and Museum. Jacques had the greatest deal going for himself. He was one of those scientists who was able to turn his hobby into a very luxurious lifestyle with all the toys he'd ever need. I don't really know if he did any really important work outside of inventing the aqualung, and I was a big aqualung fan as a kid. I had mine by 57. I was out there early. I had some of the young fashionable Frenchies. They were just smoking cigarettes and all that stuff, and always making faces at us because they think we're funny, the Americans. But they're just as funny when they come over here, taking pictures of us, etc. And here we're back. Sailing. It was a nice sail. This was in September, and here we are. It was cold. It gets cold very quickly in the European countries on this coast of France. So you had to kind of bundle up when you were out there, and the winds could blow pretty hard too. But we made about 7 or 8 stops at various places. Some were out of the way. Some were big ports that you would pull into. And this looks like a calm day when we just did a lot of motoring. So this must have been in 78, I guess. And then I just, by next year about this time, I had sold my half of the company and gone to Florida, where I moved around September 79, something like that. So there's some more pictures of the coast and of our sailboat. We were running a spinnaker. There's me. I had the long hair at that time. I was pretty cool. I was in pretty good shape too. So I guess I was at that stage 80. Let's see. I was 38 at the time, because I remember that when I moved to Florida, I was 39. So it's some more pictures of the Mediterranean coast. I don't know if it's that exciting, but it's easier to view it than it is to edit it out, And here we're moving along. Let's see. That looks like the kind of Jacques Cousteau Marine Biology Laboratory, whatever it is. I have to believe that we're finally out of Monaco, though. It looks like I'm trying to figure out where we might be. We had an interesting thing happen in one of the little ports that we stopped in. We had to very small docks, and we came in. It was a beach. I think it was below or something like that. And we were kind of just sitting on the docks, and this big LST landing craft came in from a French Navy ship, and out popped about 50 French Marines with rifles and in their full battle gear, and they ran up the beach, and they then ran into the woods, and then they came out again, each with a loaf of French bread under their arm. They got to the bakery in town, got back in the LST, and went out to the ship. So anyway, that's a little France for you. I'm pretty sure that we're in Germany at this stage, because the German sense of fun is pretty much like ours. It's crash into everybody that you can and eat a lot of food. This was, and of course the Germans are they're not a particularly attractive race, to tell you the truth. And here they swim in the river in I'm going to call it mines. I'm not too sure, but there's a thing where they all jump in the river and they swim in the river. This was in the fall. It's supposed to be a big thing, and everybody does it right in the middle of town. So we have a picture of that. And I think what we went to was one of the German carnivals. This is probably near Oktoberfest, but I think these things pretty much go around all the time. The thing that was very good in Germany was the food. It's you get stews and soups and all that stuff, and we had some friends there who, not on this trip, but on a second trip, who kind of took us around. But generally, that the street food everywhere in Europe is good, whether it's Germany or whether it's France. Or France, we were on the seacoast. That was kind of a vacation town, so it's hard to tell. But when you went through Germany, it was working town, and oh, look at that! Isn't that something or other? I don't know who this girl was. I have no idea. And of course, the trolleys and all that nonsense. And oh, this is Jill Shanker. This is a trip I think that we made with there's Harold Murgaard's partner. I forget her name right now, but we went over here to see them. They were German partners, so selling our software. So they kind of took us around to see some of the sites in Germany. It was nice. So this was a different trip, if I remember correctly. This was not the same trip that we took. We went ourselves once to Germany. There I am in Germany. But it was about the same time. It kind of may have been that this is probably 78. I think we flew over together to see Harold and Ilga, or whatever her name was. She was a nice woman. They all spoke about 18 languages, you know, and they sold our software in England and in France and Germany and Italy. Mostly in Germany, you know, and and now we're back. God knows where we are, but we have lots of dogs, so we're back at. This is the boat as it was delivered. So this had to be about 77. This is way out of sequence. This is how the boat came to us. It was dropped off by a truck, and then we set about putting it together like a Tinker Toy set. And we couldn't have done this without the help of Charlie Behan, who was a mechanic. And I thought that. And here we back. This looks like JD swimming again. We have more JD swimming. Incredible. This is at the Horseman Pool. So this is like one of those Kellogg variety packs you had as a kid, where you got all 10 cereals in a little box, and you tried to open them up, and you put a little knife in them and you split them open, but they spilled milk all over the table anyway. But you had your choice of Rye Krispies or Corn Flakes or Raisin Bran, all of the Kellogg's brands. That looked like art there for a second. That was a diver who did a flop. This may be. We'll have to get some more more light on this one when I go back to do the final editing. I'm doing the narration first, and that looks like it's probably Margaret, and this looks like it might be either Margaret or Art. Margaret. Looks like Margaret when she was swimming. This is probably her first. There she goes. This was her. This would have been her senior year at Horace Mann. So she's kind of kicking up a storm here. There she goes. That's a pretty long pool. It looks like about. That's the Horace Mann pool. Maybe some other pool looks a little longer than the Horace Mann pool. But doing her laps there, you know. This is before she took off for Dartmouth. So this was in her. Must have been her senior year at Horace Mann. And that looks like. Is that JD? It looks like Art. Yeah. No, that's JD. So. Art and JD also swam at Fordham for a while. They had a coach there who was a pretty hot coach, and they used to go there together after Horace Mann and swim. And I don't know if Margaret was in on that particular deal or not, but this may be it. And then here's some more Art in basketball. I don't know if we showed this thing before, but might as well just show it again. I guess this was a game against themselves, I guess. I don't think this was a real game. It was probably a intramural game. There he goes. I think Art, I forget Art's number. He played with John Weiser here, but they kind of scored some points, so, or if I could spot his number there. I always forget which one it is. This is a full court game, so they were really kind of cooking on this one. 26-29. It was a low scoring game, but this was hard trying to photograph this stuff in this gym. These were the days when you had the film cameras. You know, the video cameras are much better today, and then in terms of their light selection, as soon as you picked up anything that was light from the windows, it shut the aperture down, and what you get is these kind of pictures. Anyway, I'm sure that Kelby and Art will get a kick out of them, and it's always nice to see yourself at a younger age, nice and nimble and running around. Yeah, I don't know who actually won this game. I think this might have been a real game. But anyway, we have now switched to the girls' swim team, I think, or this may be, I think they had co-ed swimming at Horace Mann. So there's JD. Margaret was here too. There's the coach. I guess that's the coach, whatever it was. And I think this may be JD or Art. I'm not too sure, but this was it looks like this was a medley, and I don't know who the hell was really swimming there. If it was one of my kids or just somebody on the team. But this looks like I have no idea what's going on now. This must be the diving competition, and now we're suddenly into the gymnastics, of which my kids didn't do anything. Thank God. I think that's a way of. Anyway, we're back in the pool where it's a lot safer when you fall in the water. That looks like JD there.